watching, the watcher's watching me. Cameras spinning, eyes, no place to be free. High towers whisper to the ground below. Promises broken where the taxes grow. C.S.I. watchdogs sniff the trail, follow the lies where the big dogs fail. Truth uncovered, corruption's face. Tear down the mask in the shadow place. Tear down the mask in the shadow place.
Good evening and welcome to our Candidates Forum on Public Education. Thank you to our candidates and community members for being here tonight. Catoosa County Public Schools has almost 10,000 students in our care and employs about 1,700 staff members. Our public school system is a cornerstone of this community. With that in mind, this forum is focused entirely on public education and issues impacting our local schools. Our goal tonight is to provide voters with clear and informed responses from each candidate. Here's the format. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening statements. We will ask 8 education-focused questions, as this is not a town hall or debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute per question, and we will conclude with 2-minute closing statements from each question. Speaking order will rotate to ensure fairness. Time limits will be strictly enforced. We ask that candidates remain respectful and professional at all times, and we also ask that of the audience, as well as to hold applause until the end of the entire event. We're going to begin with opening statements, 1 minute each, and we will start with Ms. Spear.
Hello everyone, and thank you Caitlin and everyone for being here. This is my first time ever doing something like this, so I'm going to be quick and short, but public education is super important, I think, to all of us. I think every Georgian thinks that kids should be able to read well, that schools should be safe, that teachers should stay in the profession and be supported in doing so, and that parents should be heard. So how we all decide that we want to approach that and fix that, we might disagree about that, but I think as a whole, we all believe those things. And thank you all for being here.
Hi, my name is Denise Burns. I am from Catoosa County. I am a product of the Catoosa County public school system, although a very long time ago. I'm a wife, a mother of 4 mostly grown children, early adults. I had a career in food service management and hospitality before my husband and I decided that we were going to stay home. I was going to stay home and raise our children. Because of where we lived in Cobb County, we had a majority school system, and the minority happened to be Portuguese-speaking Brazilian students from immigrant families who had overstayed their visas and sent their kids to our local elementary school. So kind of as a reaction to what we were seeing in our neighborhood, we decided that we were going to start homeschooling early on, and I successfully taught all 4 of my children to read, which is, aside from my relationship with Jesus, one of my biggest and most proud accomplishments. Looking forward to talking with you all tonight. Thank you, Ms. Burns. Thanks, Mr. Warner.
I'm State Representative Mitchell Warner. First, I want to say to my most important constituent, happy birthday. Sorry we have to be here tonight. That being said, teachers, parents, and taxpayers of Catoosa County. Yesterday, the state of Georgia released a new financial report on school systems across the state. In that report, Catoosa County was identified as being in a critical financial position, the only school system in the entire state currently listed in that category. The last system in that position was Dublin City Schools. That is not a political statement. That is the state of Georgia's official financial analysis. And that is exactly why I pushed for a stronger financial oversight and independent audit. Now let me be very clear about one thing. Over the last 4 years, the state of Georgia has increased education funding to our local school system by nearly $12 million. That includes higher QBE funding, transportation funding, equalization funding, and additional grants for our school security and mental health counselors. During my time in office, we also delivered over $1 million a year in additional transportation funding and over $5 million in additional education funding.
Time.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jack Zubin, and I just wanted to take maybe 10 seconds of my time to thank everybody on this dais and many of you with whom I've worked for the past several months. Everybody has been professional, kind, open-minded, even if we disagree. And whatever happens in this election, Northwest Georgia has already won because we have excellent citizens standing up for you. Anyway, I'm a third-generation public servant, and I have been a teacher now for 35 years. I'm a recovering journalist, and I teach journalism at UTC, and believe me, it's pretty weird to be on the other side of all this. But the bottom line for me is helping y'all. We are public servants. We are, again, my grandparents were cops, my parents were workers. We're here for you.
Mr. Melvin.
Well, that was.
There we go. That was delightful. I'm glad I don't have to go after you every single question on the sheet here. I am Nick Millwood. I'm running to be your next state representative. I grew up in Catoosa County. I went to Graceville Elementary School. I've raised my daughters in public schools, and I have spent my career as a teacher. I'm in my 17th year as a teacher. My wife and I both teach. And so we see the impact every day for children that our public schools have. And so it's been my life that I've lived. It's been a special journey. Just to get through the rest of my background, the past 10 years, I've been the mayor for the city of Ringgold, which is an incredible honor. And we've done amazing things in the city. And as I go through this campaign, I will showcase some of those things. And I look forward to getting into much more topics tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a Marine, so I have to stand up. My name is Christian Hurd. I do not live in Catoosa County. I live right across the line in Woodfield. About 10-15% of the 2nd State House District is in Catoosa County. That being said, I will not ignore you. I'm here to listen and learn. I have never been a teacher, like some of these folks up here. And so my job tonight is to learn. I have lived in this district my entire life, other than going to the University of Georgia and serving in the Marine Corps. This is how I continue my service, and I'm excited for tonight. Thank you, ladies, for having us, and thank you guys for coming out to hear us politic on a Thursday. So thank you so much for having me.
Hi, my name is Blake Ellsbury. I am from Walker County. My wife is a nursing educator, and a little bit about my background. I currently work, I have the entire state of Georgia, and I work with counties and cities on helping them save tax dollars on the roads. We have 2 kids, my son Will and my daughter Sarah Catherine, and they love to come to these things, but they couldn't because it's soccer season. But anyway, a little bit more about my background. I was a local elected official for 1 term. I'm still recovering from that. But during that time, I served as vice chairman for all 159 counties in legislative policy. And then before that, I worked 10 years in invasive cardiology. And then before that, I worked in special management department corrections. So a very varied background, but it gives me the opportunity to talk about a lot of different topics firsthand. So I appreciate the time today.
And before we move into questions, I was asked to share, Lenny Thomas had an event tonight already scheduled, and Mr. Garvin had business at the Capitol. So now we're going to move into the question portion of our forum. Each candidate will again receive 1 minute, and we will signal when the 10 seconds remains. The speaking order rotates with each question. Question 1 will be starting with Mr. Hurd. First question. What is your position on fully funding Georgia's QBE formula?
I'll be candid with you. I've worked my career in getting the people that want to hurt our country dead. It's very different from the policy and teaching our students. That being said, I'm here to learn. Understand that a lot of our rural districts are needing a lot more help. Some of our counties, Gwinnett and Cobb, won't need as much help. So I don't have an answer for you. I'm here to learn.
Fully funding Georgia's QBE formula. I'm kind of with Christian. Are there areas where our curriculum and our schools are partially funded or inadequately funded? The legislature does set budgets, and we trust the state school superintendent, the state school board, to advise the counties on curriculum and other oversight. I will definitely need to learn more about QBE funding before I make a definitive statement on that. Thanks.
That formula is set by the state. The state should fund QBE. I think that there's incremental steps that you can do that to make sure that it's fully funded. And that's my short, simple answer, yes.
So we're talking about quality-based education formula. I would say yes. I would be definitely in favor of the position on fully funded QBE.
As state representative, over the last 3 years, we fully funded QBE. When I first took office, QBE was not fully funded. It hadn't been fully funded since 2008 due to the liabilities that the state had incurred during the financial crisis in 2008. We came in, we saw a lot of issues with how the QBE formula is being set up. One of the biggest issues, in my opinion, is how teacher pay is set up inside that QBE. If you're a teacher in any position, you get capped at the highest rate of that position, and it no longer goes up with inflation. So every year you're losing value on your salary. And so at a point, you get capped out almost completely. So over the past 3 years, I've worked with state leadership, gone on mandate committees, specifically looking at QBE, specifically articulating what we need to change in QBE, and making sure that we're trying to better QBE, because QBE is broken, and we need to fix it.
Gotta remember to turn that thing on. So I think that we should fully fund the schools, for sure. I think that the current system is a little bit outdated. It hasn't been updated since 1985. It doesn't handle and take into account poverty, mental health, transportation, and modern staffing needs. So I believe that we should keep it fully funded, but I also believe that it needs to be updated and modernized to acknowledge the current problems that face public schools and, Catoosa County specific problems.
Well, certainly we need to fully fund our schools, but like Margaret, I do think we need to revisit the funding formula because education is ineffable, and reducing it to enrollment and FTEs doesn't necessarily recognize the special needs of individual school systems and individual schools and students. So yes, we have a standardized formula that goes across the state, and certainly it needs to be fully funded, especially when we have a surplus. But at the same time, there's always changing needs, and indeed, it should be revisited.
Thank you. We're going to move on to question 2, and our first candidate will be Ms. Burns. What is your stance on vouchers, charter schools, or school choice programs?
I am very much in favor of all 3 of those different types of programs. Lots of nuances in all of those. Charter schools and school choice programs in particular, vouchers, I'm a little less warm and fuzzy on, but the charter school model and in combination with an engaged citizenry in Cherokee County, Hillsdale College has a classical school model in Cherokee that is a public school and has a tremendously long waiting list, excellent educational outcomes, and the entire school population, parents and students, seem to be very happy with the education that they're receiving. So I think multiple models encourages every model to be better at what they do. Competition in life is propels us to be better.
Sure, I could support those things if you pay for it. You know, it has to be fair, it has to be equitable. I don't support pulling the money out of public education to do it. And so I think all that, and I have a lot of family who do various, you know, educational paths for everyone, and I don't know, like I said, I don't believe that punishing public schools for those programs is the way to go. I think that you can figure out ways to do those programs that pay for those programs.
Yes, I'm very much in favor of those programs. I think that education is not a one-size-fits-all. I think most educators know that. My wife talks about it all the time when she's teaching the nursing students. So, you know, I think ultimately the parents have the decision on what fits their child best. That being said, you know, our public schools need to be fully funded and supported by the state, but at the same time, parents need to be supported by the state as well on their choice of what's better for their child and their education. So, yeah, I would very much be in favor of that.
One of my proudest votes as state representative was school choice. We did, the first year I was in, it came to the floor, and that was something I was very excited about. The bill's not perfect, it's about 80% perfect, but it passed by 91 votes. Without my vote, it would not have passed. And I'm very proud to know that that's one of the few things that I can say I know as a part of, and I know I did. Now, can it be better? Absolutely. But that being said, and my biggest point is we need to untie the public school system. There are ways that we have worked together that I've presented to the school system here in Catoosa County of how we can do pilot programs to make sure that not one size fits all, even to public school, but it fits across the state, and to make sure that they have access to that funding the same way as the private school charters do. Now, that being said, I would love to see a little bit different program, but it's very strong, it's working, and in no way, shape, or form did we take any funding from public schools. We increased education funding across the board every single year I was your state representative, and I'll continue to fight for that.
Well, of course, I agree, not one school model fits all students' needs and all communities' needs. However, we do need to have certain standards, which is really why the voucher program I find rather troubling. Because that takes public funds and puts them into a school system or a school that may not have appropriate supervision. And that takes money from public schools and public teachers. Now, charter schools is a different animal. Charter schools, we all agree on what the school is going to do. We agree on its structure, and you know that can work. And school choice, it depends on the choice.
So we actually have a new charter school over in Whitman County that's going to be opening in the next year or so on the campus of Dalton State College. And we have to ask ourselves why are students wanting to leave their current schools? That's because something ain't working at their current school. And so, for the record, I would be proud to support school choice systems. I'd be proud to support any charter school systems. And to take a step further, I would love to, in any way, shape, or form, help families that decide that the public school system or the private school system is not for them, and take their students home and homeschool. I've never been homeschooled. I spent my entire life in the public schools, but we cannot avoid talking about the issues that these families face. And I would be honored to help get them the resources they need to properly school their kids.
That takes it to me. So I think school choice is important that, I think it's important that parents are involved in their children's education. And however they choose to do that, I think is great. Data has shown that parental involvement is one of the highest factors for whether or not a child is successful in school, no matter what school they go to. So parents caring about their kids, they should do that, and they should have, voices heard when it comes to the education of their kids. That being said, I don't know that state money that you can't hold to account. I don't want my tax dollars going to something that I can't see the result of, and that is not being responsible. So I don't want money taken out of public schools for a child who might not have another option to be delivered to a parent who already has enough. But I do want parents involved, and I think everyone should have a choice in how they educate their children.
Thank you. We're going to move on to question 3. How will you advocate for increased and consistent state funding for Catoosa County schools?
Well, one of the things that I'm really big on is being present and working with the various constituents. If I'm there, I'm going to meet with their school boards, with teachers associations, and really tailor any request I might make to your individual needs. And I will keep doing so formally and informally, and then relaying that information and formulating policies based on the individual needs of the individual schools.
This might sound weird coming from one of the Democrats on the stage, but I believe in small government and local government and its importance. So kind of like what Jack said, I think that listening to what Catoosa County schools tell me they need and advocating for that at the State House is what I'm going to do. I don't believe that the state should be dictating everything that Catoosa County does, not just in schools, but in lots of ways, because Catoosa County knows what Catoosa County needs, and the Catoosa County teachers and school board and elected officials who work for Catoosa County work for Catoosa County. And that's how I would advocate at the state level, is to protect our ability locally to make those decisions.
As your state representative, I've done exactly that. What we've done the first year, we worked with the school board, and their biggest issue was transportation funding. We received $1 million a year now for that transportation funding. It went from 20% to 40%. Every year, I ask the school system, what do they need and what functions can we best start addressing? And we've slowly done that. Most recently, we're discussing QB and healthcare insurance premiums. There's only 2 representatives in the entire state that has asked the hard questions to the QBE directors, and they're both from Catoosa County. We have worked very hard to make sure that the liabilities of the state do not affect Catoosa County, and that's our biggest problem, is the liabilities of the state are starting to affect us. We need to address those, and you need a bookkeeper to be able to know what liabilities you need to address.
To be candid, I don't necessarily agree with the premise of the question, in that to advocate for increased education funding year to year, that's not going to be my goal. I'm a partisan Republican. I believe in zero-based funding. I believe that there may be some years where you're not going to get as much as the year before. And that's the case for every aspect of our state government. That being said, I'm very concerned with consistent funding. And as we're looking with the issues with property taxes, we're going to have to find out how to make sure that funding remains consistent for our county school systems. Whether that's a floss, or whatever else we can come up with at the state level, I am ready to listen and find solutions that move away from property taxes.
They can start by letting us keep more of our own money. We send a lot of money to Atlanta. I think it's about $15 million. About 5 mils about what we collect, we send to Atlanta for redisbursement. And I'm not convinced all that money that all these county sends gets dispersed at the rate that we send it. Keeping a couple of mils that we send to Atlanta, I think, would really fix all of the schools' fiscal issues almost by itself. There's a lot of small things you could do. We there's been talk about having flexibility in these laws to pay for our SROs in the school system. There's one thing that needs to be addressed is the rising insurance costs. We could probably have an entire forum just on that and what it's done to our school budgets, but I understand putting caps on how much local governments can increase their millage rates, but what about an increase on those insurance rates? They're killing us.
Ms. Burns?
Thanks. I will advocate to put strong funding into classrooms and into teacher pockets. I would like to see the money that I'm paying as a property owner in Catoosa County go into the classroom for better educational outcomes. I understand the need for stable funding, and I certainly agree with the health insurance premiums and the transportation issues. At a certain point, the local tax base is going to be tapped out, and to continue to try to bleed that turnip dry is going to set up resentment within the local community. And then back to Mitchell's point about the audit, you know, are we really being responsible with what we're spending now, what they're collecting now? I think we all want to see it go into the classroom.
All right, we're gonna move on to question 4. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my apologies.
Sorry. I think what we need to think about with advocating is the fact that legislation, unless it's local legislation, is a blanket piece of legislation. It affects every school system across the state. So as your legislature, you need to be available to talk and notify your school systems on what pieces of legislation are coming down that may be good for other school systems, but, you know, unfortunately hurt the school systems that you represent. So I think we need to have those open lines of communication when we're talking about, you know, school legislation every year. Also, I think not just having open lines of communication with the school system, but open lines of communication with parents that go to that school system, getting feedback from all of them on the needs that they see, because, you know, the parents ultimately give feedback to the school system as well.
Thank you, sorry about that. We're gonna move on to question 4. We'll be starting with Mr. Millwood. How should the state address teacher recruitment and retention, especially in rural and high-need districts like ourselves?
The way that you do that is you're competitive with wages, and that's tough because that, for a school system, that is our biggest expense. We are a service industry. We're not out here generating money. We get disbursements, and it comes in different amounts, and that's tough. It's tough. That's what I have on that.
Well, I'll tell you what we do in the Marine Corps to solve recruiting shortages. We throw money at it. If we have a certain MOS response or a job field that we're having a problem recruiting people with, we give them significantly higher bonuses than the rest of us. So there may be places in Georgia that if we cannot locally source teachers from our colleges, from the local communities, let's figure it out a little bit more a different way. And as well, when I was in college, Teach for America recruited heavily on the University of Georgia campus. And I know a lot of teachers aren't fond of that program, but the reality is, in certain circumstances, we may not have many options. And so whether that's relaxing our licensing situations for our teachers, the new teachers, programs like that, I'm on board with that, getting our students from our classrooms at our colleges across our state into teaching these needy districts.
Definitely an attractive compensation package there is required, but I would like to think, I've grown up thinking, I experienced personally teachers that did the job for the money, but they loved their students and they loved the future legacy that they were building in teaching a generation of students. And I know in business, when we have morale problems or retention issues, in addition to looking at compensation, you look at what parts of the job might be causing undue stress, anxiety, or just frustration. And I have this mental picture that most teachers would like a lot more latitude in their classes. They would like to have a better discipline environment in their classes. And if we could make their jobs easier and let them work inside their giftedness instead of inside of bureaucracy, retention might actually improve.
So from the state's perspective, right, that's the question. Money is an obvious answer. We need to give teachers money and we want them to have jobs that pay them well and where they feel like they can have a good living wage and support their own families and live lives and go on vacation over the summer and all of that. But we also need to listen to the teachers and see what support they need that is, like what Ms. Burns was saying, what needs do they have that help them feel supported in being the kind of teacher that we want. I know everybody in this room has had some sort of teacher that inspired them and touched them, and those are the teachers you remember, those are the teachers we want to keep, those are the teachers we want to bring to the county, and so giving those teachers an ear to get the support that they need that's not just financial, but helps them feel supported in their job is what I would like to make sure the state is addressing.
So yeah, I think the consensus is going to be for most everybody up here is that we need to just talk to our teachers directly and see what needs they have, see what the issues and what's important to them. I think also it's going to take some out-of-the-box ideas. We're seeing that now in the legislature with House Bill 310, the student-teacher bill that's come up, trying to address some of the rural needs with the access to more teachers. So I think it's going to take some out-of-the-box thought processes.
So again, over the last 4 years, I've been able to speak with our school system, and we're in this wonderful building here that creates that kind of retention, to where we can have a streamlined process from when you graduate high school here, you go into the career academy, you do work here, and then you go to Dalton State, you prepare yourself for re-entering the workforce and re-entering teachers. Teachers need to be homegrown, and I fully support our school system being able to do that. That being said, that's just one step. The second step is absolutely wages. And over the last 3 years, we've increased teacher wages $8,000 under my votes, last 3 years. Just this year, the state senate tried to slash the $2,000 retention bonus we were giving to everybody to $1,250. And thanks to the teachers that reached out in Catoosa County, we stopped that and we raised it from $1,250 back to $2,000. I could go on to all the different issues that we have on retention, which is the liabilities of the state and why there needs to be a strong asset base in local counties so that we can grow what we need in the classroom. But that's my time talking about that.
You know, this really touched me. In my peregrinations doing this campaign stuff, I remember in Somerville, a special ed teacher came up to me and said, gosh, I'm a single parent. I'm making $34,000 a year and I can't make it. What we need to do is to support people like that. Have a minimum, a minimum salary that folks can be based on. And also, doing higher ed, we need to incentivize teachers, our education programs to bring teachers into rural areas and special needs areas. Doing that through public-private partnerships, federal and state grants. We can be creative and we need to address this.
Thank you. We're going to move on to question 5. Mr. Ellsbury first. How can the state strengthen career, technical, and workforce pathways so students graduate ready for college or careers?
So I think we've done a good job with this. I came here and did a tour about 2 years ago and was very impressed with this program here and multiple programs in Walker County and some of the other counties. We need to continue to do that, but I also think that that strong partnerships with our technical schools, our colleges, which I think that we're doing a good job at building those strong partnerships, are definitely going to, in the future, help strengthen programs like CTAE and College and Career.
I completely agree. On this issue, again, we're standing in the facility to be able to do that. We've done that in Catoosa County through the school board, through other institutions that have been slowly being able to facilitate that career set. That being said, I would love to see even more funding and more certain ways to kind of grow from 16 to 18, start preparing you for different types of technical careers in colleges, depending on, because when you kind of get dropped off into higher education, sometimes it's a hard drop for a lot of students. And we need to make sure to soften that curve, make sure that because not everybody's meant for college either. Some people are meant for higher manufacturing. I'm already wanting to teach my kids welding eventually because there's such a strong field there. And we do a wonderful job here of teaching that. So you have to prepare them for all sets of careers because the career market is also changing. And we're not prepared for what AI and other technologies are coming on that front.
You know, career development doesn't work in a vacuum. You can't just build a VOTEC or a career pathway program. We need to have a place for the students to go. We need to have good partnerships and economic development. We're doing that up in Chattanooga at UTC. We're working with EPP, the power company, to hire our students in computer science and other technical areas. We need better economic development in Northwest Georgia to bring in good employers who will employ our students and give them good jobs. We also need to work across state lines. Here we are, 4 miles away from Hamilton County, and we don't talk to EPB or Volkswagen or people like that. The opportunities are here, and it's a matter of economic development as much as it is supporting our students.
So this is just another way in which Catoosa County has led regionally in the area. We are exceptional at this. Some people have mentioned this facility here, which is geared toward those needs that we know that the community have, and so there are appropriate classes to match our area and our needs. And we're doing it at our high schools. This is, I don't know, like I said, it's just another way that Catoosa County has been on the forefront. I'm very proud of the work that our school board and our superintendent, Kurt, Past, have made in this area. They've addressed just a legitimate issue that, I don't know, it was a big need a few years ago, and the amount that we've moved in that direction, I think, should be an example to the rest of the state and country.
Yeah, so state, again, money, obviously, and setting up systems and programs that support and inspire the kids to want to participate in them. So, you know, I went to college, but I probably shouldn't have. Like, in retrospect, like, I told my cousin, I was like, don't go to college. It was a waste of my money. I went to art school. Super fun, not useful for my career. But I did get inspired to make art, to learn to problem solve, to do a lot of other things, and I had teachers who inspired me to learn all sorts of different trades and fields while I was in school. And so getting students excited has to be a part of the solution, because if they don't want to participate, we all met a teenager, right? Like, we know that it's going to be hard for them. So putting together programs where they're also excited to engage is an important part of how we support this.
I'm a big fan of vocational education, and I grew up at a period of time when Ringgold had an outstanding VOTEC program, and part of that was home economics. And I was a home economics student, and I went to college to major in home economics education. And it is a good thing that I changed my field of study to hospitality management, because in the early 90s, a mere 5 or 6 years after I graduated, I would not have had a job in colleges in Georgia, because VOTEC education went the way of the dodo bird, because everyone was supposed to go to college. And teenagers need to work as part of their daily process of life. It would help with discipline problems. It would help them achieve life skills. There need to be mentoring programs that they enter into with local businesses and even in the community. Tons of opportunities to teach young people how to build a work ethic and acquire skills and relationships at the same time.
My foundation for this is I'll look at my peers I graduated high school with. And I graduated from Northwest High School in Cook County 11 years ago. The only folks I graduated with that are having the ability to get out and buy a home and start families are those of us who went to really, really good colleges, or those of us who became tradesmen and went to those type of programs. So where I'm coming from is we have a big chunk of folks in the middle that got lost. And so my position is if these folks don't have the opportunity to graduate high school and either get some type of certificate or associate's degree, we have failed them. And I believe our responsibility ought to be to raise the expectation of our school boards to have more students when they get their high school diploma, that other little certificate or degree in hand as well.
Question 6. I'm going to start with Mr. Warner. What policies or programs do you support to improve student achievement and address learning gaps?
So this is just something we did just this past week. The House did a massive education push. We, for the first time, we passed a massive literacy bill. This bill is centered mainly on Mississippi and Alabama because they were almost low tier. They were 48, 47 in the nation. And through very methodical going back to phonics, they were able to close that gap of having low literacy scores. We have very low literacy scores in the state of Georgia. Our rate is, I think, it's like 32% across the state, and it's 40% in Catoosa County. We have to close the gap in literacy. We have to provide more funding in literacy. We have to provide, so what this bill did is providing coaches for literacy to make sure that we are realigning all of our curriculum to make sure, going back to what worked. For 20 years it hasn't worked. Now we're going back to what does work. And so Mississippi and Alabama immediately shot back up to, I think they're like 4, 5, and 6 in the state. And so we need to start focusing on our literacy.
So I'll kind of go back to the first 4 things I said in the beginning that I think everyone on the stage agrees with, which is we all think that kids should read well, that schools should be safe, that teachers should stay in the profession, and that parents should be heard. So I think putting together ways that we can incentivize parents to be able to be more involved in public education and supporting their children as they're learning and growing is going to be a way that we can make the learning gaps better, because that is statistically what makes a child most likely to be successful in school is their parental involvement. And so any way that we can support parents in being involved in their kids' education is going to help everybody.
I like the parent comment, especially early on in a child's life. Reading to your kids is a big thing, so we try to, encourage that in our school system and partner with parents in creative ways to do that. I did follow this last literacy bill that got passed, and I do think that it's a good program for our schools, and I think that it will help improve literacy. I have some of the same concerns about, funding. They funded the literacy positions, but they didn't fund the health care for it, and that's something that the school's going to have to foot the bill for. So it would be nice at the state level, whenever they have what I think is really quality bills and policy to put forward, if they could fully fund it, because these positions are going to have to be given insurance, and it is not cheap. I was looking at the data. I think it's about $24,000 a year just for the insurance, and so I support all these things. Let's fully fund them if we're gonna pass them and expect the schools to do them.
Mr. Asbury.
Yes, so I think, reiterating what some of the others have already said, I think continuing to advocate for strong parent involvement, and then of course, House Bill 1193. House Bill 1193, the literacy bill, that's a very good program. I'm very happy that the Senate bill to go along with that, 459 is going up to be able to fund it. So any program that can come up like that where the state is going to fund it is definitely a win for education, and we need to see more of that.
I haven't looked closely at the literacy bill yet. Some feedback that I've gotten from teachers that are currently in classrooms, most of them teaching high school and not teaching reading, they are concerned about the bureaucracy that is built into the literacy program. And for kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers can be retrained if they did not learn to read phonetically. Teaching phonics is not hard work. If you are a reader yourself, you can teach a young child to read phonetically, and it's not that expensive. And so I would like for there to be a retooling and an adjustment process so that our frontline teachers who are teaching these young children, who are doing it because they love the work and love the clientele, to see those kind of achievements in young children will propel you to heights unknown. It's amazing when you teach a child to read, and you can do that with phonics.
I'm going to agree with Denise.
There's a lot of that.
It's a good thing to look at literacy as a goal. Literacy is good, and achievement is good, but we already have good educators on the ground who can address these issues. And I'll sound like a Republican. Having a new program enacted just to achieve literacy may not be the best thing to do. It might be worth looking at what we have and empowering the people that we already have to do their jobs. I know in the literacy program, they're talking about adding new personnel, literacy coaches, and that would be paid hopefully from state funding, but also local funding. We already have the people who can do literacy. We need to empower our teachers to do their jobs.
So I'm asking to be your state representative. And what I'm going to ask our school systems is, well, actually I'm going to demand of them, is I'm going to demand competency. My favorite classes in high school were English language arts. I can think a few teachers y'all may know, Miles Tannenbaum, Amy Smith, Mandy Jones. I read probably 20 novels through high school, and that formed me to be the man I am today. My brother's 17 years old at the same high school I went to. I asked him a few weeks ago, how many novels have you read in high school? He's not read a single novel in high school. So what I'm not going to do is reward this incompetency and reward mediocrity. So we can do that by allowing our students to go to better schools. A solution to this is school choice. And we also have to demand, educate parents. I have a 1-year-old at home. We have read a book called The Fuzzy Bunny 15 times in the past day or two. So we have to keep talking to our parents about the importance of it and demanding our schools get it right.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Ms. Spear.
Please give me an easy one.
Education is never easy, that's why we're here tonight. How can the state better support students with disabilities, English learners, and other students who need additional services?
I don't know that I have the best answer to that because I'm not a teacher. I'm not there every day. So the first thing that I would want to do is talk to more teachers about how they think they could be better supported in that. I think recognizing that those are issues that we have and not trying to sweep them under the rug or couch them as some sort of partisan issue because there are kids who don't speak English well yet or who have disabilities. That's not a partisan issue. That's just a fact about our country. And we need to support children. They're here. They need to be educated and they need to be loved and taken care of and looked after so that they can become like awesome neighbors like all of you guys are here for me. So that's what I would like.
Too often, we warehouse these kids. They come in and you have a government mandate that you have to have special education, special classes, special teachers. All good. but we don't have the resources to take care of each child's individual needs. One thing we could do a better job of is assessment, finding the individual needs of the individual child. Maybe some of them could be mainstreamed. Maybe some of them need to be in a different sort of class. But right now, we just put them in and say, hey, special ed, and warehouse the kids. We can do a better job. We need to incentivize at the university level special ed education. We need to not overload the system. And we need to really look at where the kids are first and match our needs, our programs to meet the needs of those kids.
One of the ways we can help our folks with disabilities is understand the typical 18 years, where, when you typically leave high school, isn't going to be the case for all our students with disabilities, and that it might need to go a little bit longer in programs after high school or outside of high school. My understanding is in Georgia, we have programs that are strictly connected to Medicare that we fund significantly less than other states. This is a situation where I believe the state has a role. And when we can help folks with disabilities, one of the best ways we can do that is with charter schools. Like I spoke about over at Dalton State College, Dalton City Schools is opening up a charter school. It's going to be focused on helping folks at times who have a little bit of trouble more than others. So my argument is at this charter school, those students are going to have a lot better success than say at Westwood Elementary or City Park Elementary.
So the testing we have is pretty good. I think it gets really to the issue with a lot of issues that these kids have. We're able to be very specific about it and address very specific needs and concerns. I've spent most of my career in special education, and I think that I think we do a good job identifying those things. I believe in empowering teachers. The amount that you have in your classroom as far as the special education population really affects your ability to address a lot of those things. And so you got to think about in the special ed population the numbers that you have. It's a big deal, and it's a real limiting factor. I believe the other part of your question was about English language learners, and sometimes we get kids coming in who do not speak the language. And I came through Dalton State College, and they have a great ESOL program, and that type of education comes in handy all of the time.
As far as the parents I know that have children in a public school setting that have a learning disability lament the lack of an advocate, I think, in the system as the paperwork and the IEPs are being developed. And so I think we could probably work with some of our state universities to put a mentoring program together or some sort of exchange program between perhaps law school students or other education students to come in and work with the family, with the parents, as a liaison. And it might not be increased funding, it might be a program that the college can use to train legal representation on how to advocate for difficult cases. And so I'd like to see something creative along those lines.
So I think as legislators, we need to truly listen. We need to listen to our parents. We need to listen to our teachers. They are on the front lines with these kids every day. And we need to realize that no community or school system is the same. Everyone has different issues, and we need to take them as such. So I think as people who are running to be your next legislature, we need to make sure that we have open lines of communication. We're truly listening to each community, because no two communities are the same, and they have different issues. And I think that's one of the best things that we can do on the state level.
So 6 months ago, in this very room, we sat down with the local school board and they discussed all the issues, all the mandates that the school system has on their burden. And one of the biggest issues we haven't talked about is federal mandates. And so federal mandates are about a good 20 to 34% of just mandates across the board. One of them is being the English learners. They are required by law to take all English learners, and that increases taxes for locals and increases tax on the state and increases tax on the feds because we now have to educate these individuals. So we sat down, we talked about one, I like talking specifics if you all can tell. And we discussed one specific program where between ages 3 and 5, when they need support because of disabilities, the feds are requiring by law to find doctors to find proper education for that child. And the state does not pay anything towards that program. The feds pay 30%, you pay the rest. And so that is a mandate that affects you directly. And so I had a bill about it, but that's where you have to work the room in Atlanta, and the best bill sometimes doesn't get through. And so that's where it's important to build those relationships in the state capital.
This is our final question before closing statements. We're going to start with Mr. Hurd. If elected, what will your top 3 priorities be in your first term and why?
Great question. Number one, property taxes. I want to find a workable solution that gives stability to our communities while removing the property tax burden from citizens who are being forced out of their homes. My taxes have doubled just in the past 2 or 3 years, and all I did was build a fence. So I imagine there's a lot of folks in this room who are also struggling. Let's push some of that burden off to people who don't live here, potentially for floss. Number 2, here in Northwest Georgia, we have a crisis that's going to affect us for generations to come. That's a PFAS situation. My opponent is supporting shielding corporations from lawsuits prior to getting any commitments on cleanup. So that's not me. And number 3, my priority to you, my commitment to you, is I'm going to be the most accessible state legislator down in Atlanta. I'm going to beat all these guys when it comes to accessibility. I want each of you to be able to know you can reach out to me anytime. I'll give you my phone number. And those are my 3 priorities.
Property tax assessments are a humongous problem, and I believe that the state legislature owes it to the citizens of Georgia to cap those in a way relating to the rise in inflation that makes affordability a top priority for all of us, but for certainly the middle and working class Georgians who are bearing the load right now on taxes. So I'd like to see that capped. I would like to reduce regulation on small businesses and small farms. We have so much that hampers us in Georgia and ties our hands and stomps out creativity, and I'm a big fan of innovation and creativity. My third effort would be to remove the Hollywood tax credits, because they're not tax credits, in case you don't know. We are subsidizing with our tax dollars the Hollywood industry. Any production that happens here in Georgia, we are giving them free money just so they'll come here. And we don't need to be picking winners and losers.
When I was first elected, I promised you guys I'd run to change so that we keep what we have. Catoosa County and our school system is in financial crisis. From a report just 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, the state has listed specifically that Catoosa County is in critical condition. The last school system that was in this way was Dublin City schools. And right now they're bankrupt as of 6 months ago. None of these issues matter if we do not fix our books. None of these issues matter if we do not fix our liabilities. So as your state representative for 3 years, I've led that charge, and I'll continue to lead that charge, because we can talk about funding all we want, but it's your taxpayer money. And unless we fix these books, it will either increase taxes or cut your salaries and your pensions. And I'm not for either of those things. And I've stood in that fire line, and I'll continue to stand in that fire line for you guys. So that's my responsibility.
So I'd like to see the elimination of the income tax being across the finish line. I'd also like to address the property tax, but I think we also need to be wise about property tax. We've created an issue where our local governments and school systems are reliant on property tax, and it's a volatile funding mechanism. Market's down, They have to furlough employees, and they have to raise millage rates. And when the market's up, they have to roll it back, and you never can roll it back enough to make everybody happy. We need to find them another stable financial way to fund the services that they're mandated to fund. So I think it can be done, but it needs to be done smartly. It needs to be done with local communication. I also want to see us incentivize our next generation of farmers. I think the state's doing a great job with farming, but we need to incentivize the next generation. I also want to see the expansion of rural health care. We've done it locally, we can do it on the state level, and we need to see the end of the CON process to do that.
Well, I've been talking about these things publicly. The first thing I would do is I would introduce local legislation to stop the local Republican Party, a group of 16 people, from trying to control ballot access in our primary elections. I would introduce that right away, and it should have already been introduced. There's still, this year, there's funny business going on with our elections, and it needs to be addressed. The second thing I would do is also local legislation. This audit bill that got dropped, I cannot wait for this initial report to come out and for everybody to see what a waste of money it was. In a school system that already goes through an audit, where we already know where the money goes in the school system, it's going to show what everyone already knows. And so I'm glad that we're going to get the initial report on that before I can introduce local legislation to put it to bed, to put it to rest. As I go door to door, the property tax issues, okay.
Sorry, time. Solar Plastilian, please, thank you. Ms. Spear.
Yeah, so I promise I'm not just catering to this audience. Public education is one of my top 3 priorities. Making sure that our schools are well funded and that our teachers are listened to and taken care of. My mom was a teacher, both of my grandmothers were teachers, my stepmom was a teacher. Got so much respect for them. They need to be listened to because we're all here because a teacher told us to be here at one point in time in our lives. Second is gonna sound weird coming again from a Democrat, but is responsible local governance and bringing local governance back to the local government and keeping the federal government out of big picture things that they don't need to be here. Catoosa County knows what sort of roads Catoosa County needs to fix. The state doesn't need to decide that. And then lastly, also healthcare. So we live in a healthcare desert here. It's really important that we're all taken care of. So thank you.
You know, I got into this because I live up on Lookout Mountain, and we have semi-trucks coming all over the curvy roads and running people off and having accidents. And I wanted to fix the roads. I wanted to fix flooding in Florida. But as I go around, what I hear more and more from y'all is healthcare, health insurance. People cannot afford healthcare, they don't have access. The sheriffs tell me that we don't have enough support for mental health. If somebody is in crisis, either they go to jail or they go to the hospital and they're out the next day. And all of it comes down to supporting families, especially and education. We need to make our local families, we have to have good jobs, we have to have affordable housing, we need to support our people and our families so we can have a good future.
Thank you all for those very thoughtful answers. We're going to move into closing statements. And for this, each candidate will receive 2 minutes, and you will still see the red card at the 10-second mark. We are also doing the reverse order from opening statements, which you all have access to. So we will be starting with Mr. Ellsbury.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here tonight and for y'all doing this. This is a great thing. You know, I'm a proud product of public education. Actually, my mom still works at the cafeteria where I graduated high school from. So, and my wife's an educator. Of course, you know, she works in the technical college system of Georgia, so I get to hear about all the things on the state level. But you know, for us, you know, you heard my 3 priorities, and I've got a lot of other priorities. But you know, for me, we've done all these things at the local level. We expanded healthcare. We built the first freestanding rural ER in the state of Georgia that's saving lives without any county funds invested. We cut taxes. I cut county debt by $4 million. We've passed legislation and we vetoed bad legislation. And I'm working on 2 bills now for next session. I mean, I'm not in the legislature. I just like to help people. And so, we've done these things locally, and I'd like the opportunity to do it for you at the state level for all of our 53rd district. So I would appreciate your support. I'd love to speak to each and every one of you afterwards. If you got any questions or any comments or anything you'd like to talk about, issues that are important to you, and let's get to work and let's get it done. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having us tonight. Thank you for hosting. I wish that my wife and daughter would have been here, but I have a 1-year-old, and 7 o'clock is bedtime at her house. So it's just me tonight. So I've never had a bad teacher. I've never had a bad situation, circumstance in my entire time in public school. I went to Westside Elementary, Westside Middle, Northwest High School, Gulf State College, University of Georgia, and one of the federal colleges. I went to the Defense Language, about 5 or 10 colleges the federal government runs. And I would not be here today on the stage were it not for amazing teachers and amazing public systems. But I'm looking at this from the mindset of my 1-year-old. When it's time for her to go to public school, I would not send her to the school that she's districted for, which is the same exact school that I went to. It was great 25 years ago, but I simply wouldn't put her in school today. And so that's where I'm at. That's the lens I look at all these issues from. So I'm here at the table. I want to fix that because I've got a pretty big stake in it. Education is a national security issue. We cannot solve our workforce problems without a public education system. We also cannot have a Republican form of government if we do not have a functioning, successful public education system. My opponent calls teachers crybabies and other vulgarities. You're not going to hear that out of me. I am a willing partner. We will not agree on all things, but you have my guarantee I will listen, and I will work to solve these issues with folks here at this table. I am in this race because there are existential problems facing our state, facing our communities, and I view education as one of those problems. My name is Christian Hurd. If you live down in Chambers or Wood Station Precinct, if you go to those precincts, I humbly ask for your vote on the May 19th Republican primary, and I look forward to meeting with you guys. And let's talk after this. God bless you all.
So my last answer actually hit some of the things I had planned for closing, but I do want to talk directly to the school system. If you are part of the school system, you have a friend and an advocate in me. I will serve the school system in Atlanta. Sure, I'll work with the school system to find ways to reduce property taxes, but we'll find a way together to pay for those things instead of dropping bills at our Capitol that our school board and superintendent have never even seen. I would be a partner. I would have a professional relationship, and to all the teachers out there, you would have a friend in Atlanta, and it would be an honor to serve you in that role, and I would make you proud because, like I said, I'll partner with the schools to make some of these hard decisions, in the community, and we'll make sure together that if we do make these kind of changes, they're paid for, and I would appreciate your vote, and thank you to CEA for your time. I appreciate you, and thank you all for coming.
And I too thank you all for being here, for all of my colleagues here and the Education Association. And we're here to listen to you. If I go any further with this, you're going to see a lot more programs like this. People coming out, because we are here to represent you. We're not here to listen to some fat cat contributor or some powerful legislature or elected official. We're here for you. And we're here for our kids and for our school systems. And as far as education is concerned, and I'm in education too, what's been happening in the last 20 years is we've been sliced and diced and evaluated out the kazoo. We are not teaching as much as we should. We're being evaluated. We're doing more administrative work. Teachers need to be empowered to teach. And sometimes government needs to get out of the way and let the people who know what they're doing do their jobs. And that's what we're here for.
As state representative for 3 years, you've heard about how I work with the school system on different issues. But I do not work for them. I work for the teachers, the taxpayers, and the parents in this room. And 3 years ago, we saw issues start red flagging. We saw issues across the board. Our reserves were the lowest in the state. Our taxes started going up 17% and then 32%. My constituents were angry, naturally so, because when you have a socialist in New York raising taxes 90.5%, and you have our local system raising taxes 50%, that's when you raise the flag of saying, I work for you guys. And why reserves matter is because when reserves dwindle to 0.6%, according to the state audit report that was released 2 days ago, saying Catoosa County is in critical condition, we have a responsibility. I have a responsibility, according to the state constitution, to stand in that way and to say, okay, guys, what's going on? How can we work on it? I sat down in the school system. I requested meeting after meeting after meeting to come and deal with this issue. None was given. So yes, we talked about tax reform. We provided tax relief directly that will be on your ballot in May. We provided audit systems to make sure that we can come in and say, okay, we have this issue. It's black and white, right here. We have problems in our county, but we are here to protect it. It's my job to protect it. It's my job to make sure that we don't become Hamilton County and the cuts that they had to deal with last year. It is my job because you guys elected me, because the taxpayers, the parents, and the teachers elected me. I'm forced to protect you, and I have protected you, and I want to say thank you to my wife on one, because we have sacrificed for this. We now homeschool my kids. I love homeschooling my kids, but I always wanted my kids to grow up in Catoosa County schools too. I wanted them to have that opportunity that I had, and I will stand in that firing line continuously, because we do have a problem, and I hope that we can acknowledge that problem now, and to fix that problem, so that we can protect your salaries and protect your time. Thank you.
Ms. Burns.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's been educational for me to listen to this thoughtful group. I'm a homeschool mom, and homeschooling my own 4 children has been the highlight of my life. I identify with the classroom teacher in ways that might not be obvious from the outside, but the men and women who teach those children do it because they love learning and they love to transfer the love of learning to a future generation. And we get wrapped up in bureaucracy and forms and hoops to jump through. And I do believe that there is a creative and innovative way that our children can be reading better, earlier, and more solidly than we are currently serving them. I understand that we have a workforce to take care of, but parents and students are the most important part of this equation, because without students, there is no job to do, and we have to be able to make sure that they are reading well, because reading well solves so many problems as they travel through the system. And so I just want to encourage you all to think creatively. I look forward to serving you in Atlanta as your next state senator. We have a special election on Tuesday to fill the unexpired term, and then obviously we're on the same ballot with the state representatives in May. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have this evening. Thanks so much.
All right, I definitely have some teachers right now who are disappointed in me that I knew I was supposed to do like a 2-minute closing and I did no preparation at all. So, apologies. But thank you all for being here. Thank you to our moderators. Thank you to the fellow people on the stage with me for all of your insights. I got into this because I've worked for a long time at the polls. So if any of you recognize me, it's probably because I was there asking you for your ID and helping you make sure you voted, maybe handing you a sticker. And through that process, I got to know a bunch of my neighbors. I'm a transplant, you can tell I don't have the Georgia accent. I could try it, but you'd all be disappointed in me. But I got to know those neighbors and love them and want to take care of them. And it was all outside of politics. We were not allowed to talk about politics at the polls, which is lovely. We just got to know each other. I got to know who had a good garden, who made great pecan pie, and we all just got to know each other and about our lives. And I'm just done being angry. I think that a lot of us are. We all like each other. We're all neighbors. I'm in here to take care of people. I'm here to take care of the people in this county. I don't care how you vote. If you vote for me, I hope you do one day. But if you don't, I still love you and I want to take care of you because we're all just humans here trying to get through this together. And we are all tired. I am certain we are all tired of being so mad. So, my name is Margaret Spear. I hope you vote for me. I want to take care of you. And thank you again to everyone here tonight.
Thank you again, candidates, for participating on a Thursday night, and to our community members for attending. We encourage all eligible voters to stay informed and participate in the upcoming elections. Of course, we have one on Tuesday. And this concludes tonight's forum. Have a wonderful evening.